Welcome to the Problematic Gazette with me, Dr. Lee Arnott, and
me, Dave Moore.
A bit slow on the uptake there, where it's a little catch up with your two favourite pubs of a certain age, just to chew the cud, maybe talk about some award-winning things that happened this week, and just generally see how life's been and how it's going and what's been occurring. And what is that around your neck, Dave Moore?
It's just a little necklace I fashioned. I'll talk about it later.
Looks quite heavy and quite chunky.
Quite clunky and chunky.
Yeah.
Yes, anyway.
We've had a good response to our Game of Thrones episode last week, which, although we're both fans of Thrones, we both found it quite difficult, didn't we? Bit of a challenge, that one.
Yes, we did. Yes, it was one of those shows, which doesn't happen quite often, that your opinion of it second time round slightly changes somewhat. And it just goes to show how our opinions have shifted on what's acceptable on TV and what's not. We have a huge nostalgia element attached to some shows, so much so that our opinion doesn't sway. You know, we're hugely dedicated to it and we will not have a word said against. But this was one of those shows that actually we can see it for what it was at the time and for what it represents now. But I had a little message on YouTube following our Game of Thrones episode for something that we didn't cover, but we very deliberately didn't cover it because we had so many other subjects on Game of Thrones to mention. This is from Segas7344 on YouTube. Were there any LGBTQ plus representations on Game of Thrones? What do you say to that, Dr. Lee?
Well, there were, but I mean, they were fairly hideously treated as well, you know. And quite early on, there's Renly Baratheon and his lover, Loras Tyrell, brother of Marjorie. And they're both kind of summarily dispatched quite quickly and quite brutally in a way that did feel a little homophobic at the time. The way they're dispatched shows that there's clearly no room for kind of anything other than heteronormativity in Westeros at this point, unfortunately. There's a whole ton of titillating lesbianism, as you can imagine, but there's very little lesbian representation. So, yeah, it's a poor show. We could have touched on it because we couldn't have done it justice, but boy, oh boy, oh boy, there's, another thing that the series really was found lacking, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. And also what struck me, it wasn't the TV production's representation of LGBTQ, it was the books and the world's representation. It strikes me as quite odd that in a world of dragons, White Walkers, etc., it's so fantastical. The idea of two men sleeping together. There was Pedro Pascal's character, Oberyn Martell. Now, it was suggested that he was a little bit ambidextrous, wasn't it? Or that's where he came from, didn't have so much of an issue of it because he was from an exotic, far-flung place that tolerated bisexuality.
Yeah. Doesn't that also play into those historical tropes about like, oh, they're from there, they'll do anything over there, which used to be very common in this country about areas in places like Turkey or Greece. Oh, the men are all flexy, sexy over there. You know, it's just a little bit redundant, isn't it? So answered your question very poorly, basically, unfortunately. And we had some comments about our Are You Being Served episode, didn't we?
Yes, we did. From Andrew, who is our Australian correspondent, emails to say, great ep about Are You Being Served? Here is a fun fact for you. It used to screen in Australia on the ABC. Then in 1977, a commercial network repeated it with ads, and it became the number one show in the country. My mother even took me and my friends to see the movie Are You Being Served at the drive-in as a support for Greece. What a double bill. That is certainly a good double bill. I would imagine that the quality got steadily better once Greece got on the screen, because having watched the trailer for the Are You Being Served movie, doesn't look that great.
I have a real soft spot for the Are You Being Served movie, and I think it's actually one of the better movies that spun off from a sitcom in the 70s. It's shit, but on a relative scale of shit, it's at the upper end of the scale. But yeah, what a double bill, jeepers magic.
Yeah, the number one show in the country. That's amazing. Yeah, thank you, Andrew, for your email.
Yeah, well, you know, Australia did its own version of Are You Being Served? They flew John Inman out there for 2 seasons. You can watch bits of it on YouTube, and it's a bit like a fever dream because it's exactly the same characters. I think they're different names, obviously, but that the Mrs. Slocum equivalent still got the funny coloured hair. There's their version of Captain Peacock. They're all exactly the same. And Mr. Humphreys is just plonked in the middle of it. I can't remember. There's some plot conceit as to how he got over there. But yeah, it was huge. It was huge in lots of different places. So yeah, John Inman was a big star, I imagine. But thank you, Andrew, once again. Keep up the good work down under for us. You're our trusted correspondent over there, darling.
Yeah, he really is. So I want to talk about something that I watched this week.
Yes.
There's been a lot of press about it. It's a drama, the latest drama by Sally Wainwright, who obviously authored Happy Valley, Gentleman Jack, Last Tango in Halifax. Amazing, amazing writer. Started off as a writer on The Archers.
Yes, she did. That's right. Yeah.
So, yes, Riot Women is the latest offering, latest venture from Sally Wainwright, and it's got a stellar cast, as you would imagine, people clamoring to work on Sally Wainwright's material. It's got Tamsin Greig, Joanna Scanlon, Amelia Bullmore, Lorraine Ashbourne, some really good names. But the standout for me is Rosalie Craig, who plays Kitty. The basic premise, I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, is a group of women who merge together to form a rock band / punk band. That's the opening premise of this. And you see the domestic lives of these women, in particular, Joanna Scanlon on the verge of suicide, mother with dementia in care home, and hugely stressful job. It's all pressures piling on, getting too much for her. And there's a real sense that actually this rock band that she wants to form could be the making of it. So there are a few bumpy ups and downs along the way, and it is only episode 1. But on paper, when I read about it, I thought some middle-aged women forming a rock band. I just wondered what that premise was going to offer that would interest me. But actually, well-crafted, finely written representations of women. And I'm hooked on the first episode. And like I say, Rosalie Craig as Kitty in particular is an absolute standout in the first episode. So it's well worth a watch if you haven't already.
And well, I had this on my radar as soon as I heard it was being made because I loved the sound of it, because I love a show about ladies of a certain age, especially in the menopause, like The Change by Bridget Christie, one of my favourite ever TV shows. So it's fantastic. Joanna Scanlon was my first drama teacher at university. So I wave a little flag for her. So yeah, always been on my radar. I'm very excited about watching this. Shirley from Creative has messaged to say you must watch it. So obviously we bow to Shirley from Creative. So yeah, I'll be watching that this weekend for sure. I've started a little mini side project of watching all the Carry On films from start to finish in order of production. And that's been quite interesting because the first one, obviously the first couple are very different in tone. They're kind of like social commentaries, actually. It's Carry On Sergeant, looking at national service, basically. A pre-Doctor Who William Hartnell is the main lead in it. And it's quite incredible watching him 5 years before Doctor Who being doddery, physically active, but a young Bob Monkhouse is in it, looking quite hot. And it's really interesting watching the kind of formation of what will become the Carry-Ons as we know and love or loathe them today. So it hasn't got any of the sauce, there's none of the cheekiness, there's none of the naughty seaside postcards yet. So I shall keep you posted as to how the evolution goes. But I've just seen Kenneth Williams' first appearance and he's very low-key and very kind of playing it straight, which is super interesting. So, yeah. Are you up to date with Celebrity Traitors?
No, I'm not. No spoilers, because we were busy on Wednesday evening, weren't we? Can't remember exactly what we were doing. But yeah, it'll come to me.
I'll refresh your memory on that at the moment, but I just need to tell you this one moment where you will love it. Celia Imrie, already a national treasure, lets off a little fart, gets excited and lets off a little fart and just absolutely cements herself as superior national treasure status. So look out for it. It is very, honestly.
Now that isn't much of a spoiler unless she actually spoiled herself at that moment.
She did not, no. So what did happen on Wednesday? What is that big chunky thing you've got round your neck, darling? You've fashioned yourself a necklace out of.
What happened on Wednesday night? Now, our gazers are going to be on the edge of their seats now, aren't they? Because for weeks and weeks and weeks, we've been ramping up this Independent Podcast Awards that we've been nominated for 3 awards, and we've been ramming it down our gazers' necks, so much so that we even started to bore ourselves a little bit. But come last Wednesday, this Wednesday just gone, we got our glad rags on and we got dressed up and we pootled on down to the King's Cross area of London. No longer the den of iniquity it once was, but very posh event space. And we attended the Independent Podcast Awards, didn't we?
We did. And we won. We bloody won, everybody. We won one. We won one. It was touch and go, wasn't it, darling? It was touch and go because the first 2 we were up for sailed past us. and I could feel a face like a scalped arse coming on, and I could feel myself thinking, well, this is a load of old shit, isn't it? You know, terrible, really badly behaved. And the one we actually won, Best History Podcast, I think we both thought that was we had the least chance of winning that, didn't we? So when this category came around, lo and behold, I was expecting it to be game over, get your coat, go on, we're leaving. But no.
No, it wasn't expected. There were 9 other podcasts in that category. So it was a really contentious, really kind of well thought category. And we triumphed. But I have to say, like you said, after culture passed us by, TV and film passed us by, but each time the categories were read out and our names were read out for the culture and TV, my heart started to go. It was like almost palpitating. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to pass out. So it must be what it's like when the Oscars are read out and things like that. But so by the time when we didn't win them, I was like, that's okay. You know, we're here. We got nominated. We got shortlisted. That in itself is a massively huge achievement to have been nominated. So when the history one came by, I'd resigned myself to the fact that, you know, it's a really hugely contended category, this. I don't think we're going to win it. So I was just calm. I thought, you know, let's just sail through this. So I didn't get the palpitations and I feel slightly sick and la, 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 la. But then when our name was read out, I literally leapt out of the seat. I just couldn't believe it. It was amazing. We're so thrilled. And you say we think the history one was the one that we were least expected to win. But come on, Dr. Lee Arnott, you are a doctor of history, of social history. You know, if ever there was an award with our name pinned on it, it would be that one.
Well, that's what I have to realise, you know. But yeah, absolutely. So, as you were calm, as the third one being read out, I was just getting more pissed off. So I thought it was all over. But anyway, it was great. And we just want to say thank you to all our gazers who've given us so many lovely comments on our social media. We can't possibly read them all out because there's hundreds of them, darling. But really, thank you so much. And it was just a great night. And we looked fabulous. Not being funny, but we really did, darling. We'd had a very productive day. You'd come up to London town, to PG Towers. You know, we'd recorded an episode in the afternoon. We'd been to Battersea Power Station for a do in the morning. And then this was just great in the evening, wasn't it? It was just fab. So thanks to everybody. Thanks to the judges. Thanks to just everybody for making that. You take over, Dave. You take over, darling.
Okay, rein it in, darling. Rein it in. Yeah. It is really interesting what you're saying about being disappointed about, because obviously there would be some podcasts there who would be disappointed for not having won. It's human nature, isn't it, to think, oh, well, sod this then. You kind of, all your achievements kind of go out the window in that moment. And, you know, we're all for, as a nation, as viewers, looking at the Oscars and, you know, award ceremonies like that. And you immediately go to the disappointed faces. That's what you want to see, isn't it? Who's going to be disappointed? It's not necessarily about who won it. So that is human nature. And I'm not saying that we're not grateful to the Independent Podcast Awards for the nominations that we lost out on, because we totally are. And we appreciate that we won one, which is fucking amazing. Yes. You got 3-line whip, didn't you? The trophy was coming up to PG Manor.
Yes, I was allowed to briefly hold it. And it was whisked out of my hands and has been fashioned into a necklace around David's neck as we speak. No, it hasn't really. It's sitting, I imagine it's somewhere pride of place, darling, and in a cabinet that's about to be filled with more of them. Maybe just pop it on the shelf in the loo for the moment.
Yeah. Well, we need bookends now, don't we? We need to win another one so we can prop all the books up with them. But no, it's pride of place on the coffee table in the lounge at the moment, and just keep glancing down at it thinking, did we do well, as Bruce Forsyth would say?
Did we do well? So let's move forward, darling. Because it's non-stop, this podcasting malarkey. We can't rest on our laurels. We've got to keep going. The treadmill does not let up for a second. So we turn our attention to next week's episode. And I don't know about you, I've got bloody yakety sax in my head for the last 3-4 days. You're welcome, everybody. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, at Benny Hill, it's a good one, actually, recorded at PG Towers, as we said. And another one, actually, that surprised me in my reaction to it. Not maybe the reaction, the problematic reaction that you would expect, but a real talking point. Huge amounts to talk about Benny Hill, about the history of Benny Hill and the public opinion these days of Benny Hill. And some of our views might surprise our gazers about how we found it, but we won't say any more than that.
No. Listen to the bloody episode.
Yes, that'll be coming out on Tuesday. And then obviously we'll see you in the Problematic Gazette next Friday as well. But before you do anything else, before we leave you, dear gazers, we've had an uptick on new gazers as a result of the Independent Podcast Awards. So I just want to implore everybody listening to this podcast, please hit that follow button, because it really does help spread the word of the Problematic Gaze more than you'll know. All these blooming algorithms going off out there in the ether, Apple Podcasts, Spotify and stuff. Who knows what they do with that data? We did ask, they didn't tell us. But hitting that follow button is the best way to help the Problematic Gaze increase our listenership, and we implore you to do so.
Indeed we do. Thank you for that. I always forget to say it, but do it now. So until next week, Dave, when we'll be slapping old men across the head vigorously and chasing semi-naked women around a public space, I say to you, au reservoir.
Au reservoir.